what you waiting for. I think we're ready to rock.
Today I'll be showing you how to make a kind of a pocket keychain feather. If you have nothing but a grinder, cutting disc, flap disc for sanding, a electric Dremel, and a propane torch, then you can make this cute kind of little feather as a gift for your family member or friend. Here I have some leftovers, and you could get this kind of metal from small shops, places that will sell you leftover scrap metal pieces. You can also get those metal from a metal shop. Of course, there's some people who just take any kind of scrap metal, and that's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do. Just be aware that there can be mixed metals in it, and among them galvanized, which can be dangerous for your lungs in the long term. So here I made these kind of cardboards for myself of making these kind of feathers, and they're just a rough shape. I'll be trying to leave it in the comments or a link to it so that you can print it and then just cut it out and outline it. Now, first of all, we're going to just do our cutout, like I said. So actually the easiest thing is a Sharpie. And wherever there's a space, you're just going to trace it on. Now this feather is shaped to be like an eagle feather. And this one I made more so it's like a big blue jay feather. So now we're just going to cut the pieces out with the grinder and the cutting disc. This little hat. Now you see this right here, it's going to be really hard to get in with your big disc, so you just make like little triangles, and then the rest will be easier to sand down after. As you're getting closer to the end of the cut, you're going to want to grip the thicker side wherever that might be. So I'm going to hold this side. What's going to happen is at the end here my grinder could kick. Be more careful and go a little bit slower. Ideally, don't do like me and keep it in your hands. It's the ideal circumstances not to cut your fingers off. For sure use 1/16 or even 1/8, although 1/8 would be really heavy. Now that we have it all cut up, the best thing for you to do would actually be to soak it in a vinegar bath. I'm going to sand the corners and soften it out and take off the mill scale so you can see this darker, and we're gonna just take it off. I'm gonna go straight for the 120 disc. It might take a bit longer initially and use up a bit more disc, but it's gonna take us less time overall. Now that took a couple of minutes, and I prepared this other one that's been sitting in the vinegar, and then the next day I just scrubbed it off and rinsed it in water. And now just for comparison of how quickly it's going to come off, now you can see that that came off a lot faster, and this is especially important if you're working with hot roll. And now you want to make sure that your surface is the flattest possible just for your designs after. So try to keep your disc flat. And of course, if you have to take the corner, but try to come back and make it flat. It's just going to give you a nicer finish. Of course, depends on how you like your feather. And if you like the texture a bit more, how about it? We're going to decide what kind of pattern we're going to do on them. Ideally, if you have the electric Dremel, you're going to use that to make your detail. But if you do not, then you can use control that you have with this tool is a lot less. Also, if you have a air compressor with a die grinder, that's the best tool. I'm going to take the minimum To show you what kind of details are possible with this. And it's very important we clamp our feather and make sure it does not move. Very tight. Now I'm just going to make lines going outwards. So now you see the line here is kind of straight and the one here is sideways. So the lines I'm going to make are kind of be in between them. So that way I'm not going to have to change the angle when I go here and here too much, and it's still going to look really nice. We're going to make a line that goes from here to here, and you can bend it a little so that it kind of has a little bit of a curve, but not too much, just very slight. Here we are. One thing to remember when you're using the grinder like this is don't put too much weight, because then you're going to pass your metal when you do the other side. So I did some lines a bit closer. And just to show you, I did some lines a bit more spaced. And you can space them even more than this to still look nice. The general idea is you want to try and not pass this line too much. But if you pass it, it's not terrible. I'll show you how you can hide it a bit after. Now for the eagle feather, I'm going to show you two different ways. One's a little bit harder, and the other one is still nice, but it's much easier. So I'm going to start with the easier one. If you wanted, you could just stop here and you could put an engraving of a name or something nice to say on the back of it. So this would be easier, a little bit more complicated. So in this version, instead of keeping straight in the middle, you're gonna try to kind of make a curve. Instead of going absolutely straight, I'm just going to curve it a bit, and then it's going to give the illusion a bit more of it being flowy. See here, we just passed a bit. And what happens is you see it on the line there. So we're just going to repass over it lightly. Very careful not to go too deep. So this is just going to clean it up a little, make it look a little more proper. Now what we're going to do is we're going to buff it all up, and we're going to sand the corners to make sure that there's nothing that's going to cut us anywhere. Lightly, don't push hard, because if there's something you're going to cut yourself. Lightly find if there's any grabs. There's one here. Alright, now that we got them all cleaned up, we're going to just make this one look nice. I'm just going to take my grinder with the sanding disc and go back and forth like this. Now you're going to see what's happened to most of those lines is that they've just disappeared, your lines that you made problems with, or the inequalities on the metal itself show much less. So now for this one, we're going to make a nice kind of little style, the arch feather. And to do this, the reason why I said to do it a specific way before is because the way that we do it is going to influence the design now. And then we're going to go down, but on an angle. So you want to point it and then go down on an angle. Point it, down on an angle. We're going to do the other side, and I like to do the other side the same way. So if it's going this way, now we're going to go this way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the colors. I really love having this. It's connected to a hose, and the hose goes into a propane tank from a barbecue tank. Very convenient to have if you're doing this very often. If not, this works fine. If you'd like me to get more into detail about the specifics of the colors, I did make a course video on how to attain specific colors, which you should be seeing right here. Now for the eagle feathers, I'm actually going to dip them in some water. So we're going to heat it until we can see it's almost turning red. And then we're going to dip it in the water. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off all of the color, and then the color that's darker here is going to remain on the inside. So it's going to give it a bit more pop after. I'm just going to take that off. You see what we did before with the lines here. Well, we're going to do this on this too. Or we're going to do it on like either side. So we're going to do like a kind of a V here and just go do a couple of them. And if you can see, it's made sort of like highlights. It's very subtle, but you're gonna see it when you have the light at nighttime or in the sun. Now we're just going to recolor the tips. And of course, the more lines that you have, the more of a pop it's going to give. Now for this one, I'm going to take it back off here because I don't want it where my name is. Now for this one, we're going to come back and we're going to clean here, and then we're going to do lines again. But we're going to try to do the lines in between where we didn't do them before. My little Dremel, and I think I'll write abundant. Now you can also put your initials here, or the initials of whoever you want to give it to. And the last part is just to make a hole. You can use a mesh on a drill, nothing too big, so where the bottom is. Now just to make sure that we get the right spot, I'm gonna take a little punch. So now I don't want to mess this up. I think I'm just going to protect it with this. And then we're just going to drill our hole. And we're just going to sand it a bit. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're going to make a satin finish clear. Oh, should probably have a mask like this to keep us safe from the fumes of the spray. And also, if we're having to wear glasses because it's a prescription, this is ideal for it, because it's going to also protect your glasses from the fumes and the little speck of clear coat that might come onto your glasses. Now for cleaning the pieces, I used to use acetone, but I found that whether or not I waited, the piece would create a reaction with the clear. So I switched to some rubbing alcohol and I just put the spray top on it, clean it with a microfiber cloth. Now be sure it's a microfiber cloth and not just a clean cloth of any kind, because in these little crevices, when you're wiping with another cloth, it could still get stuck. It's not enough to cut you, but it's still a bit rough in there, and then all the little fibers of the cloth will get stuck in it, and it's not going to make anything nice. Now you could potentially clean it like this if it's all you had was another cloth, and then go and put it under the torch for a couple of seconds to clean it off, and then do this. It would work as well. Now you're also going to want little blocks that are smaller than your piece. So we're going to prop them on these blocks, and we're going to spray. Now if you don't have these kind of little blocks, you could also just put it on a wood piece and spray it directly. Just make sure that you move it after you spray it a couple of minutes later, so that it doesn't get stuck to the wood. Ideally you also get this. So this, you just put your can in here like so. And so the reason for this is that when you're wearing gloves or whatever you're wearing, or just your finger like this, if your finger is over the tip just a slight bit, it could get on your finger and then it'll go and splash on your piece, and then you'll be stuck with like a water drop kind of runny clear. A little bit. Now I'm in the sun, so it's going to dry quite quickly and I won't have any problems. But if you're not in the sun, let it dry a bit more. And after that, we're going to stick it on the block. Probably be wearing gloves so that the oil from my skin doesn't touch the piece, but it's not really that bad if you don't. Now you want to space the pieces. If you were doing a lot of pieces, then you would space them much more than this, to make sure that you don't get overspray on a specific piece. Now if you're outside, you want to make sure that you're also not too close to any trees or anything, or it's not too windy the day you're going to do it, because you don't want something landing on your clear coat and ruining everything. And if you're inside, make sure that the windows are open and it's well ventilated, you have a fan, and you can close the door. So now I'm not going to get too close with the camera when we do the piece. So here I'm spraying at an even pace, about 8 to 10 inches away. And you see you're going to lift when you get on to the sides. Most pieces I'll be doing one clear coat because they stay inside, but in the case of pieces that go outside, we're going to do 2 to 3 layers on each side to make sure that it doesn't rust or the color doesn't come off when it's being transported. Alright, so we're going to wait 20 minutes, and then we're going to turn around and do them the other side, and hopefully that dragonfly will be gone. So we're going to put them aside for the evening, give it a day or so, and they're going to be all ready. And make sure that they don't bring them in, even when they become hard. They're still drying, and you can have fumes released into the house, and it doesn't really create a good atmosphere. I'll be doing a raffle for this feather, and if you would like to participate, please just leave me a comment on what kind of project might be interesting for another video of how to like this. If you liked this content that I created in this video today, I would ask you to like, and if you enjoy the content of my videos, I would ask you to subscribe. It's greatly appreciated and it helps me out immensely. Well, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining me in this tutorial of how to create a little feather. And I hope that whoever you gift it to or yourself enjoys it very much.